What's going on, everyone? So, Dwight Howard is expected to work out for the Golden State Warriors, and the Warriors and Dwight Howard kind of make some sense, right? The Warriors don't have anybody that's over like 6'9", so bringing in a guy in Dwight Howard that can actually be a center could be beneficial to them. The problem is that Dwight Howard will be 38 years old on December 8th, and he's hasn't been the same guy in years, right? The last real stint that he had was 2 years ago now, in which he was okay. Like, he wasn't great, but he wasn't like terrible, right? So he was obviously with the Lakers for the 2020 NBA championship, and then he went to Philly and he played 17 minutes a game with Philly, gave you 7 points, 8 rebounds, and then the following season came back to the Lakers in that absolute disastrous year. On paper, the Lakers looked like the greatest team ever assembled, but in reality, the Lakers were awful. And that year, he averaged 6 and 6, gave you 6 points, 6 rebounds, but it was just the type of play that he was. He didn't have that step that he had in 2020, right? He also was all of the bad that is Dwight Howard, picking up technicals and just, being a little bit goofy to a point of distraction. And on top of that, he wasn't providing the positives that he had in 2020. And so it's made sense why Dwight Howard has struggled to actually find a roster, right? Now, in Taiwan, he's been okay. Like, he hasn't been, as dominant as many would think. I know he had like a couple crazy stat games and whatnot, but like, as far as Taiwan goes, he's ranked 560th in that league. He's averaging about 23 points per game. He's shooting 22% from, we'll round it up, we'll be kind, 23% from three-point range, shooting 69% from the free throw line. He's giving you 11 rebounds and 5 assists, right? 1.2 blocks and half a steal. Like, NBA stats, that'd be amazing. But for Taiwan, it's like, how much can you put into that, right? Now, obviously, for a team like the Golden State Warriors, you would just kind of need him to fill in the blanks, fill in the gaps. You're probably still going with Kevon Looney, still going with Draymond Green a lot. Dwight Howard would just give you that guy to go up against like Jokic or Embiid or, like a Valanciunas or a Steven Adams, and you're just kind of playing him in spots. But as far as the Lakers go, he's not it for the Lakers, right? And I have seen since the announcement of Dwight Howard potentially going to the Warriors, so many comments, so many people talking about like, oh, the Lakers need to go and get Dwight Howard, keep him from the Warriors. Like, Dwight Howard isn't going to be the difference between the Warriors winning or losing an NBA championship, right? Like, even if the Warriors do win the NBA championship this year, which I don't see it personally, but even if they did, it's not because they signed Dwight Howard, right? Like, it's just not, right? And the Warriors kind of remind me of what they're trying to do, are kind of reminding me of that 2021, 2022 Laker team with Dwight Howard, Carmelo Anthony, Russell Westbrook, whatever, where it's like you unloaded all of your talent that won you an NBA championship, and now you're trying to piece and glue together a roster that can compete, and you're digging for all these older guys and hoping that they can still provide some level of play. That's what the Lakers did then. And that's kind of what you're seeing the Golden State Warriors doing. They unload, a Jordan Poole, bring back a Chris Paul, and then go and get a Dwight Howard, assuming that they sign Dwight Howard. We'll see. He's still got to work out for them, and we'll see what kind of workout he has and what kind of impact he has. But they're hoping that Dwight Howard can be anything close to that 2020 Dwight Howard. Right? And even Dwight has talked about, I was the Jokic stopper and all that stuff. Like, that was 2 years ago. Jokic is a completely different player than he was then. He slimmed down a lot, right? Like, and it wasn't just Dwight Howard. Like, the way we stopped or slowed down Jokic is we threw bodies at him. During that series that we matched up against them, it wasn't just we were throwing Dwight on him, right? It was we throw Dwight, we throw JaVale McGee, we throw Anthony Davis. You always had a level of freshness thrown at Jokic, and he's only one guy. So you have several of our guys going up against one guy. Like, you can wear him down over the course of a series. And it's not like, I mean, Dwight, so in the year in which he played for the Lakers and we won the championship, he averaged about 19 minutes per game. And his minutes have gone down every year since, right? If he goes to a team like the Golden State Warriors, he is very likely going to play probably 10 to 12 minutes a game. But here's the thing too. The year we won the NBA championship, Dwight Howard's minutes went down in the playoffs because you ran Anthony Davis more at the center position, right? Now, would Dwight Howard go back to the Lakers? Absolutely. I mean, Dwight Howard has talked about it like religiously. Like, literally, like, he had an interview like a couple months ago where he talked about how it's like the ex-girlfriend that you know you shouldn't be with, but you can't help it. Like, you always just want to get back together and you want to make it work, right? Like, that's what he talked about it. And look, he's made his little jokes and he's, you know, said his stuff, and, you know, he's talked about how, like, oh, like, if an NBA roster doesn't pick me up, I'm going to go play for Taiwan in the Olympics and stuff like that. But, like, come on. Like, I get the idea. You know, it's Dwight Howard. It's that he won a championship with the Lakers. He's been with the Lakers like 12 times now. All right, it's been like 3 times, but still, you get my point. He's been with the Lakers 3 times now, and, you know, 2 of the 3 times it didn't work. But you're also forgetting what else he did that year with the Lakers, right? The last stint with the Lakers in that season in which it ended in disaster, we didn't make the playoffs. On top of not making the playoffs, Dwight Howard was a huge issue and distraction. He was getting all kinds of technicals. He was fighting with Anthony Davis on the sidelines, literally on the bench. There was questions about him in the locker room and getting into it with guys behind the scenes in the locker room, right? It's just, do we want that drama, right? Like, do we need that and those question marks? Like, do we want to interject a guy that at times isn't as serious, right? A guy that at times isn't as focused as we need him to be. We have a very young, impressionable roster. Is Dwight Howard the best example for a Christian Wood who has all kinds of locker room issues and has all kinds of question marks? Is he the best example for a Jackson Hayes who's a very young, impressionable player that's trying to grow into this league? Look, I do agree in the sense of, like, I do think the Lakers could use another sizable center, could use a guy that could come in and kind of just play spot minutes and be a guy that you could throw at Jokic, you could throw at Embiid, you could throw at Valanciunas, like things like that. Like, I do agree we could use something like that, but I don't think Dwight Howard is it. And clearly the Lakers don't think he's it, because if they did, they would have signed him. The Lakers were desperate for a center last year and decided to go with Tristan Thompson rather than bringing in a Dwight Howard and even having him get a workout, right? Like, I would rather bring in, like, if you're going to go that route, I'd rather bring in a DeMarcus Cousins. Like, he's going to give you technicals. He's going to have his issues, but he's going to be a professional. He's not going to cause problems in the locker room. And he's going to give you that level of toughness, plus the versatility that DeMarcus Cousins gives you, right? Like, there's no question about DeMarcus Cousins buying in and wanting to win NBA championships, right? His problem is, like, he's a hothead and you don't know how he's going to react. Like, that's the problem, right? I would rather that than a guy that is just goofing around, causing trouble, you know, causing rifts between players and stuff like that, setting poor examples for the guys. Like, and because at least DeMarcus Cousins gives you a level of versatility that Dwight doesn't give you. And he's also younger. The problem with him is injuries. Or I would rather bring in like a Hassan Whiteside, who Hassan Whiteside would give you more production than Dwight would give you, put a legit shot blocking big man, and he has a lot of the same issues that Dwight Howard has, but at least he's younger. And a little bit of humble pie might have actually kind of helped him correct that. Where Dwight, the humble pie ain't going to work, right? Like, he's been in this position. He's been in this situation. Like, and he's still who he is, which he was great. And I'm very thankful for what he brought the Lakers in 2020. But this isn't 2020. This isn't 2020 Dwight, right? Dwight's 4 years older now. He doesn't have the same step. He doesn't have all the good that you had in 2020, but he still has all the bad, right? Like, the Lakers were able to deal with the bad because they were winning, and his goofiness kind of fit in with that group, right? The way that he carried himself kind of fit in with that group, but you also had a more veteran-led roster. You had Rajon Rondo. You had LeBron James. You had Avery Bradley. You had Jared Dudley. You had all these guys who were more veteran-led, who weren't going to be influenced, who weren't going to fall into the trap of Dwight Howard and his antics and stuff like that. You had guys that were able to hold him accountable, hold him responsible, kind of get in his ear. Even Jason Kidd, because Jason Kidd was the player coach, right? Like, he was the guy that was the one calling. Like, Frank Vogel was very passive. You know, he didn't like the confrontation. Jason Kidd was the guy that was like, hey, knock that off. We ain't doing that here. Cut it out. Enough is enough, right? Like, we need that. And, like, yes, the Lakers have Darvin Ham, who can be that guy. You still have LeBron James, but you just have so many young guys on this roster where Dwight Howard could he potentially fit in, work out, and be great? And maybe he is the answer. Sure, there is always that possibility, but it's also more likely, based on what we've seen from him, that he becomes more of a distraction and more of an issue. And I get the idea of, like, well, bring him on a non-guaranteed deal, and then you can always waive him. But the damage could already be done by that point. The Lakers have a championship level roster here. They have more than enough. Let them continue down the trajectory. Lakers need to be patient. Let Dwight Howard go to the Golden State Warriors. And look, if he's huge for the Warriors and he's like a 15-15 guy for the Warriors and he's just absolutely dominating, it's prime Dwight Howard all over again, good for the Warriors. That is wonderful for the Warriors. Congratulations. But he's not going to be that for the Lakers. One, because he's going to play a completely different role than he would for the Warriors. Two, he probably wouldn't play as many minutes for the Lakers as he would the Warriors. And three, the Warriors, they may be able to deal with it because they got Draymond, and they got Steph, and they got Clay, and they got Chris Paul, and they got Steve Kerr. They have the veterans to keep him in line, to tell him to knock that off, right? The Lakers are very young. Outside of LeBron James, like, everybody is like 30 or younger, right? Our second oldest player is what? Anthony Davis? And you want to interject to Dwight Howard that could, it's just, I get it. We got, like, Laker fans have this love for Dwight Howard, right? And look, to a degree, I do too, but he's not worth it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. Let him move on. Stay patient. Leave that 15th roster spot open and see what opens up. There's plenty of opportunity. You can always go and get a DeMarcus Cousins or a Hassan Whiteside or something like that if you need to going into the playoffs. See what it looks like during the regular season. See what guys end up getting bought out. See what maybe trade you can do at some point at the trade deadline or whatever. And worst push comes to shove, you go and sign like I said, Hassan Whiteside or DeMarcus Cousins, or you bring in a Colin Cowston or whatever, and you're off to the races. Dwight Howard, if he has success with the Warriors, good for him. I'm rooting for him, right? He brought a championship to the Lakers. So I will always root for Dwight Howard, not at the detriment of the Lakers. I don't want them winning an NBA championship because that means the Lakers don't. But I hope that he has some success with the Warriors, right? Like, that would be awesome for him. But I don't think so. I wouldn't be shocked if the Warriors sign him and before the season's over, he's waived and bought out by the Warriors, or he plays like 0 minutes for the Warriors, right? But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.